So in January of 1922, 100 years ago this year, there was a young Canadian boy named Leonard Thompson who was just 14 years old and was quickly dying of a disease known as type 1 diabetes. His family had known about his disease for 3 years, and the only form of treatment that they knew about was called the starvation diet. In January 11th of 1922, he began slipping in and out of a coma. Dr. Frederick Banting had invented and extracted a hormone known as insulin, which is used to lower blood sugars. After living through 15 years of my own type 1 diabetes, I wondered where insulin got to be where it is today, which I will touch on later. Today I will discuss part of my own individual experience with insulin and technology for type 1 diabetes. Second, how insulin was first administered. And lastly, the growing medical advancements when it comes to insulin administration. Let's begin with how insulin was first administered exactly 100 years ago this year. Dr. Banting announced his discovery on November 14th of 1921, later known as World Diabetes Day, and it is an important trademark in the diabetes community. He discovered insulin with the help of Dr. Charles Best, a 21-year-old med student. They worked to extract insulin from a non-diabetic dog and replace this insulin into a dog living with diabetes. After learning that the insulin seemed to bring the dog's blood sugar down, they began researching and eventually extracted insulin from a cow. Their studying went on for months before there was ever a test on a human subject. This is where 14-year-old Leonard Thompson comes in. He had weighed only 65 pounds and was admitted into the Toronto General Hospital after falling in and out of a coma. The family was so desperate and decided that they needed to act on something. PBS NewsHour holds an article regarding Thompson's success with insulin. As they explained, his father was so desperate, they agreed to let Leonard be injected by the never-been-used-before drug. His blood sugar came down, however, something was still making him ill: ketones, a diabetic issue due to starvation. Tricky situation for Banting and Best led them to go back to work and continue their studying. After they had edited and readjusted the insulin, they went back to the hospital and injected it to each patient, and one by one, each patient arose from their coma. Fast forward 100 years ago, and the same insulin is still being used today with patients with type 1 diabetes. However, patients do not receive the same insulin they did in the bedside manner for free like they did in 1922, but rather insulin prices have increased to an unaffordable rate. In the academic journal Diabetes Care, Volume 23, Issue 4, Dr. Chain and her colleagues discussed that from 2014 to 2019, the average annual insulin price rose 55%, from $3,819 to $5,917. Threatened by big pharma companies trying to make a profit. These include Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly. The issue is that diabetes requires 24/7 care, and people can spend over $1,000 a month without having insurance. And it can't be eradicated by just eating healthy or working out. Having type 1 diabetes requires insulin therapy. Personally, I know people that are limiting themselves to just 10 or 20 units per day just to save enough insulin that they can have for the rest of the month. Despite the increasing price of insulin, more and more advancements have been produced, perhaps as another moneymaker for these companies. In an article produced by the Journal of the American Medical Association, Betty Cards and her colleagues explained the insulin pump therapy with fast-acting insulin improves metabolic control and reduces the risk of long-term complications. Insulin pumps can cost upwards of $10,000, and they come with and without tubes. In her findings, insulin pumps lower the ketone rate, which would have been a great medical advancement for patients like Leonard. In recent years, a new medical device known as the Continuous Glucose Monitoring System was also invented. This device helps track the blood sugar levels in real time without requiring constant finger pricks to the patient. Hopefully, these medical advancements will continue to improve and eventually lead us to a cure. Today, we discussed the beginnings of the development of insulin. We also learned insulin's important impact on pharmaceuticals and the cost effects on patients and their families. I hope you now know more about this life-saving drug's journey over the past 100 years and are able to understand the importance of research and advocacy. What is truly amazing about the invention of insulin is not only the amount of lives that it saves and the fact that I'm here to share its journey to you, but what is most amazing about how What's most amazing is how far insulin has come in 100 years, all because one boy was brave enough to try something new.